in an inflationary depression, what you want to own is something that is highly liquid and something that has low counterparty risk. Like that's the best I came up with at the time. And that's been my focus. And so Bitcoin was like, when that came along, the main question for me was like, is this really scarce? That was the big one that took me a few months to grok and to really understand that it was actually scarce. You couldn't just, double spend stuff. But yeah, absolutely, like those two, and they just, I feel like they're still valid today, like, especially in this environment. Like, who wouldn't want something that you can sell universally, and that you can store literally yourself, or now with multi-sig even safer than that. Like, if you look at how people in ancient Greece became enslaved, it was just the same. You would have debt, you couldn't pay it off, and your son would inherit the debt, and so you had generational debt, and that became slavery. I mean, so it's kind of like, how different is that from where these emerging economies are in right now? Wouldn't you rather open up your economy, have a bunch of Bitcoiners come in, allow people to save in hard money, and then issue debt also, with the government showing that they're hodlers? It's leading by example. Of course, the motive is not to undermine the dollar. The motive is just to, to have a sound, product in the market. I had this vague memory of, like, didn't I talk about this stuff with Max Kaiser back in the day? So I found this chat that we had in London in 2014. He was saying, like, oh man, like, where is going to be the Bitcoin Shangri-La? Where is going to be the place where, that's going to embrace Bitcoin for what it is? And we were talking like, yeah, maybe like a small country or something like that, maybe Switzerland or Panama. And then it's like, man, it's only 7 years later, and it's happening. It's incredible. Because a regular mortgage, what is that backed by? By like your earning capacity, which is totally, you could get fired anytime, like, especially in a volatile economy like we live. And then it's backed by the value of your home. Like, I went to Spain, and in 2011, after their real estate crash, and these homes were just like rotting away. A home is ultimately a consumer product, and if it's given monetary store value aspects because the money is bad, it's only in that environment that you get these like 40-year bull markets in real estate. That's not normal, and that's going to change eventually. So in my view, Bitcoin mortgages should have lower interest rate than regular mortgages eventually. Regular insurance companies, pension funds, they're going to buy into Bitcoin because they really have a problem with keeping up with their obligations, and Bitcoin could help solve some of that. But my God, like, life insurance, especially the pure form, if you think about Bitcoin denominated life insurance, I think that is what needs to happen to basically offset the enormous crisis that's going to emerge from the failure of the welfare state, because there's so many welfare programs in the world, in the West especially, where people are just counting on the fact that, oh yeah, I'm going to get my pension out of this pot, or I'm going to get my health insurance, or if I lose my job, I'm going to get, unemployment benefits. And historically, that those didn't exist, and people just lived under a hard money standard, and they would have life insurance to serve as like a savings, basically as an instant source for borrowing money. If they needed it, they could borrow against the cash value, and then if a family member died and couldn't, therefore didn't have any income coming in, well, then whoever was remaining, they would be paid out, and be able to continue to live their life. And so I think that is just a massive piece of the puzzle if we think about this like post fiat economy. Being able to actually use your Bitcoin, um, for monetary purposes, for investment purposes, using, I mean, it's kind of what I was talking about with the life insurance being like the backbone of regular families, because they could borrow against it. your Bitcoin stash is increasingly that, especially if the interest rates go down on Bitcoin loans, and if we get something like Bitcoin mortgages, that's huge. But then also the sovereign adoption. I mean, we haven't even, it's a little bit of an old horse to beat, but it's like at some point central banks are going to be buying Bitcoin, and that is just, they've been buying gold for however long now. They've been net buyers of gold, these central banks. At some point, some of them are going to be adding Bitcoin to that position, and that's another giant source of demand. It's just, I mean, it's just incredible what's going on, and it's hard to predict which is going to come first.